Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. So excuse me if I'm looking like a bit of a mess. I got caught in the rain on the school run today, as I do every single day, and I did think, oh, maybe I just won't film this video, but I get so few opportunities to film. I'm sorry, it's just my reality. Sometimes I'm just gonna look like a mess. So anyway, today I wanted to talk to you about my breastfeeding journey. And 5 months in, we are still breastfeeding and it's going well. It's not perfect, it's been really tough. And so yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about how it's been and what we've gone through, and yeah, so let's talk about it. So when he was born, I was adamant he was going to be exclusively breastfed, and it was very strange. When he was born, he was put on me, everything was great, and then I wanted the birth to be as natural as possible, so I wanted things like, I didn't want him to be unclamped from the placenta until it had stopped pulsing, because basically the placenta is full of blood, and that blood should belong with the baby, and what it does, when the baby's born, the placenta will keep pulsing and putting that blood back into the baby, and then when it stops pulsing, they clamp it, and that's it, and the baby's all good. But if there's any distress, they clamp the baby straight away, and that's that. The process can take a matter of minutes, or it could take a couple of hours. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted it to all be natural and calm. And it was a very calm birth compared to Squidge, which was super stressful and crazy, with a huge amount of people in the room. But because he wasn't breathing quite well enough when he was born, Dot, my second born, the midwife took him away, she clamped him, and she sort of did a little bit of suction on him and stuff, got him a bit better, and then put him back on me. So he stayed on me for about 3 hours. They had to stitch me up while he was still on me, and that took a long time. I needed a lot of stitches, but that was all done. And then they left us to it, but they never weighed him. So I was waiting for them to come back and weigh him before trying to attempt breastfeeding. And then we had visitors come into the room, and all of a sudden a midwife comes in and says, he hasn't been fed yet, he needs to be fed, and she just shoved formula down his throat before I even could think about it. So his first feed was formula, which I'm not happy about, but I appreciate he needed to be fed, but I wanted him to be breastfed. I have to let that go. So there was that was annoying. And then for the first, I'd say, I think it was 3 weeks of his life, he was combination fed. So he was breastfed, and then he'd have maybe 1 or 2 bottles of the ready-made formula a day. One of them would be about midnight, and that would help him sort of get to sleep. And then he'd sleep for a few hours, and then I would breastfeed him the rest of the night. And then the only other top-ups he'd have would be like if we were out and about, because I was too shy to breastfeed in public. So we did that. And I didn't know this at the time, but I then joined some Facebook groups for breastfeeding support, and they have basically saved our breastfeeding journey, I think. In the early days, I had to call a local group that come out, they're like peer support breastfeeding counsellors, something like that, and I had to call them out for help because I was in so much pain breastfeeding. It was insane. I was literally crying when I would breastfeed because it was so painful. We found out that in my left breast I had mastitis at the same time as having blocked ducts. So I had all this pain from all this milk in my breast, but I couldn't express it. I'd put the breast pump on, an electric breast pump, a good one, a Medela swing. I'd put that on, it'd be on there for like 20 minutes and not a drop would come out. It was horrendous and so painful. So I had that, and that nipple was cracked and infected. Oh God, the pain was horrendous. So I was just feeding off the right breast and right breast only. We coped, and then once everything eased off, I could put him back on the left breast, and the supply kind of went back to normal, and it's all fine. And yeah, so this breastfeeding support group, they, because I was saying about how he's having this formula top up once a day, like at midnight. And they said, but the thing is, if you give him that every night, you'll never have enough milk at that point in the night to feed him. If you just kind of stop giving him the formula and put him on the breast, him being on the breast will then, for the next day or day after that, you'll then start having the milk. they said it'll just be a tough night the first night. So I thought, well, I'm up half the night with him anyway, so let's just do it. So I dropped the formula, put him on the breast, and lo and behold, within a couple of days, I had enough milk there at that time to be able to feed him. So it was absolutely fine. I never realised it, but the way it was explained to me is, in the early days when a baby's sort of feeding a lot, it's like they're putting in an order for the next day. So it's not that they're trying to get all that milk from you at that point. This is them trying to kind of increase and establish your supply. And that made a lot of sense to me when they said that. I thought, right, okay, so it takes a lot of the stress away, thinking, because you think to yourself, oh, I don't have enough milk for him, this is why he's feeding so much, because he's not getting enough. But it's not how it is at all. It's them sort of saying, this is how much I need for tomorrow, or this is how much I need from now on, or whatever. So it's a good thing. So yeah, so since that point, we dropped formula. And then about, I don't know, a week or two after we dropped the formula, so when he was about 4, 5, maybe 6 weeks old, he had this rash all over him, and he'd had it since he was quite young. Not since the very beginning, but he'd had this rash, and he was screaming on the breast a lot, arching his back. His poos stank really strongly of vinegar. He had loads and loads and loads of different symptoms. I can't even remember them all, but he had pretty much every single symptom of having a cow's milk protein allergy, CMPA we call it for short. He had almost every symptom of that other than weight loss. His weight gain was fantastic, but he seemed to feed on the breast and feed through the pain, so he would have a good weight gain. He also had something called silent reflux, and silent reflux in itself can be a symptom of having an allergy, which is what it was with him. So I decided to cut out dairy from my diet, and cut out soya as well, because a lot of the time when babies are intolerant to cow's milk, they're also intolerant to soya, because the protein strain is like very similar. They're really long, and if the baby can't digest one, they won't be able to digest the other. So I cut both out, and within about 3 days I saw a really big difference in him. The rash faded, he stopped screaming on the breast, his poo stopped smelling so strongly of vinegar, and he became much better, much calmer, much more chilled. So we figured out then, yes, okay, so he's got an allergy to cow's milk. So I've excluded all dairy from my diet. A couple of weeks after that, excuse me, I thought I'd test the soya part, because some babies can tolerate soya through breast milk, some can't, but because I excluded them straight away, I had no idea if I needed to keep on excluding it. So I tested. I had some donuts from Sainsbury's. They were amazing. They were custard donuts, and they had soya flour in them. I had a couple of those donuts, and within hours he reacted. He was screaming on the breast again. He was having explosive poos that really stank strongly of vinegar, all the same symptoms again, and the rash was starting to come back. So that was it. It was only going to be one test, so I knew then, right, so I do need to exclude soya. It's good to know. At some point I should probably test different types of soya, because sometimes they can tolerate other types of soya. Like soya flour is a strong form of soya, so he obviously can't tolerate that. But soya, I don't know how you pronounce it, is it lectin? He might be able to tolerate that, but it's so late now anyway, he'll be starting to be weaned soon. So yeah, so we're dairy free, and that's going great. I don't think I've slipped up anywhere. I check all the labels on everything before I have it all the time. So yeah, I'm really careful. However, just recently we've had more pain and drama. So my right breast has been really painful to feed on, which has always been the good one. And after going to the doctors and talking about it, I think what's happened is I had thrush in the breast, which I didn't even know you could get. Apparently it's quite common when you're breastfeeding. Now, Dot had no sign of it in his mouth, which is what happens. It's inside your breast and it can go into their mouth. Now, he had no sign of it. He had no white marks or anything. His mouth looks fine inside. But the pain that I had seemed to be from that. So they gave me a tablet, took the tablet, and over the course of about, I think we're on about week 2, maybe the end of week 2 now, it's almost pretty much gone. But I'm having other pains because he's not latching properly a lot of the time, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if he's got a tongue tie or something. There's so many things you have to think about all the time when you're feeding. It's just like a never-ending thing. You think you've got it nailed, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you're developing pain from something else, and it's just the way it goes. But you know what? We're 5 and a bit months in. He'll be 6 months old in just over 2 weeks, and we're still breastfeeding exclusively, and I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud I've managed to make it happen. I will breastfeed in public quite happily. I don't care anymore. You know, I try to be discreet if I can, but if he needs feeding, he's going to get fed, and you know, I'm not going to cover up too much. I'm just going to do what needs to be done. It's very difficult for me to cover up because I have such big breasts. When I feed him, I have to have one hand manipulating and holding my breast for him so he can feed. So I don't have a hand free to, you know, cover us up or anything like that. So I just have to accept it is what it is. And that's fine. As for my intentions on how long I intend to feed him, so originally it was I want to feed him for 6 months. That was my goal, and obviously we're going to smash that, so that's great. Now, I would say a year, but no, I want to go 2 years. Well, I say 2 years. The World Health Organization, WHO, recommend feeding for the first 2 years. Obviously, towards the end of that time, you'll probably be only giving them like 1 feed a day or something, like to go to bed, and that's fine. Whatever he needs. Ultimately, I want him to get to the stage where he self-weans. So if he self-weans at 14 months, fine. Whatever age that is fine by me. Yes, it would be easier if it's for the first year of his life and until he's done something called the milk ladder. So because of his allergy, he has to be introduced to milk very, very gradually, and hopefully he won't react to it, and hopefully he'll grow out of his allergy. So if we can reach the stage where he can just drink cow's milk, fantastic, and he won't have to rely on me, brilliant. But I'm happy to feed him for as long as he needs it and as long as it takes. Yeah, which is great. I'm just so thankful I'm in a position to do that. And it's just so much easier. With Squidge, you know, every night, sort of when I would take Squidge off to bed when he was a baby, my husband would then do all the bottles for the next day, so you'd obviously have to wash and clean them, sterilise them, and there would be about 6 bottles we'd have to do. And again, this was something we saw on the World Health Organization, that you can make up the bottles in advance, the 4-minute bottles, as long as they're cooled rapidly. So we would cool them, we'd make them up, and then we'd cool them in running cold water. So we'd put them in the sterilizer and then run the cold water through it, and then we'd put them in the fridge, and then we'd warm them up as we needed them throughout the day. And it was absolutely fine that way. But doing that used to take about half an hour, that whole process of cleaning, sterilising, making up the bottles, cooling them down, putting them in the fridge. It's just a nightmare. And you know, you've got all the cleaning. And the thing is, as well, if you want to go away anywhere, so we went to London when he was 3 months old, and we didn't drive, we went on the train, and we had to carry like all the sterilising equipment, all the bottles, the formula, everything that went with it, all the cleaning equipment. And we were staying in a hotel. We didn't have like, you know, a kitchen or anything. Oh God, it was so hard. But now, like with breastfeeding, obviously if he needs to feed, I can just pop him on the boob, and that's that. I don't have to bring anything with me. It's fantastic. I just have to look after myself and make sure I'm drinking enough and eating well. And that's the main thing, really. Yeah, so that's it really. That's my breastfeeding, or our breastfeeding journey. It's going really well. And I'm so pleased I can do it. I'm so pleased I can do this for him. I feel a fair bit of guilt that I didn't with Squidge, and I think if I'd known then what I know now, I think I could have made it work. I think I could have tried harder. I felt like I'd done everything I could at the time, but now I look back, I think no, I could have done more. So I do feel guilty for that, and I wish I'd made more of an effort to give him a better start, but I did what I thought was right at the time, and that's all you can really do. You know, I can't go back and change anything now. It is what it is, so there we go. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well, and I will catch you guys on my next video. Bye!